Hello, this is Tony Hiller from Visitech.ai. This map from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration shows all of the hurricane tracks which they know about since 1850. There's a lot of information there, but it's difficult to interpret other than the general locations where the hurricanes occur. But at Visitech.ai, I've created a tool which makes it very easy to understand the hurricane database. This is what the website looks like for subscribers. You can do all kinds of things with this app, but for this video we're focused on hurricanes. So we're going to select the hurricane dataset. Now we have a map very similar to the NOAA map which we started with. But this map is interactive, so let's start looking at some of the features. Right now we're looking at all hurricanes from Category 1 through Category 5. Let's change it to major hurricanes, which are Category 3 and up. Now we're looking at fewer hurricanes. Let's change it to Category 4 and higher. The red colors show major hurricanes, and you can see that they're confined to narrow belts in the northern and southern hemispheres. I want to zoom in on the Gulf of Mexico, and I'm going to right-click and drag a rectangle around that area. Now we're looking at all of the Category 4 and 5 hurricanes surrounding that region. Let's zoom in a little bit further. I want to look specifically at the Texas coast, so I'm going to right-click and drag a rectangle around that. Let's take a look at what months these Category 4 and 5 hurricanes occur. The hurricane season starts in June, so I'm going to set from June and to June. Only one major hurricane has hit the Gulf Coast during June, and we can see by clicking on it that it wasn't actually a major hurricane when it hit the coast. In fact, it was only a Category 1. It also didn't happen during June. Hurricane Beryl hit the Gulf Coast on July 8, 2024 as a Category 1. Let's zoom out and see where Beryl was a major hurricane. I'm just going to use the scroll wheel to zoom out. Now I'm going to click on this red dot. You can see that Beryl was a Category 3 on July 5, 2024, just east of the Yucatan. Now let's change the month to July. You can see the Category 4 storms are much more common in July than they are during June. I'm going to X out this info window so we can see more clearly. Let's click on this one to see the details. Hurricane Allen was a Category 5, which had a very long track as a major hurricane. It hit the Gulf Coast during August 1980. Let's X this out and change months. Now I'm going to switch to August. You can see that a lot more Category 4 storms passed through the Gulf during August than do during July. Now let's look at the other months. We'll go to September, October, November, and December. I'm going to switch back to all months by setting from to January. You can see that a lot of storms have hit this spot on the Texas coast, so let's zoom in on it. And let's zoom in a little bit further. This is Houston up here, this is Galveston Island, and this is San Luis Island. We can click on the dots to see when these hurricanes made landfall. This was a Category 4 which hit Galveston Island during August 1915. This was a Category 4 which hit Galveston Island during September 1900. That was the worst natural disaster in U.S. history. The reason why the 1915 storm wasn't as bad was because they built a seawall after the 1900 disaster. The other Category 4 hit San Luis Island during August 1932. Let's take a closer look at where the 1900 hurricane hit. I'm going to hover over a road and right-click to bring up Google Street View. Now we can see what that area looks like now. Let's exit from Google Street View and do something a little different. I'm going to middle-click right on the beach. This opened up a new tab with a normal Google map, and I can do things like adjust it for 3 dimensions. I exited out of Google and I'm back at Visitech.ai. Let's find out what was the most active year for hurricanes in the United States. I'm going to switch from Category 4 to Category 1 so we can see all of the hurricanes. We're looking at all of the hurricanes from 1842 to 2025, but I just want to look at a single year, so I'm going to click this checkbox. You can see that there was no hurricanes in 1842, so let's go a little bit later to 1860. Now you can see that there were 6 known hurricanes in 1860. I'm going to go through the years successively using the down arrow key on the keyboard. This is 1861, 1862, 1863, 1864, 1865, 1866. Now I'm going to skip ahead to 1886. We can zoom in on 1886, which was the most active year for U.S. hurricanes. Texas was hit by 4 storms, and Florida was hit by 3. This Category 4 storm wiped Indianola, Texas off the map permanently. Now let's skip ahead to the last year, 2025. You can see that no hurricanes hit the Gulf Coast last year. Let's look at 2024. Not a huge amount of activity around Texas in 2024. 2023, none around Texas. 2022, none around Texas. 2021, just a little bit around Texas. Texas relies heavily on hurricanes for their moisture, and they haven't had many for the past 5 years, which is one of the reasons why places like Corpus Christi are running very low on water. I reset it so that we're looking at all years, and now let's zoom out to see the full world. You can see that only 1 storm has ever hit the west coast of Africa. Let's zoom in on it. Let's zoom in further. I'm going to click on it to find out what the storm was. Tropical Depression Shalane tracked across Africa from east to west during January 2021. I'm going to middle click on it to see where it exited into the Atlantic Ocean. This will bring up a Google map. Now let's zoom out using the scroll wheel on the mouse. And I'm going to switch to a 3D view by pressing the Shift key on the keyboard and moving the mouse. There's a lot more things you can do with this app, but I'm just going to show you one more. I'm going to type in a search for Katrina. Now we can see all the hurricanes named Katrina. There's been 4 of them, including the famous one from 2005. There was another major hurricane, Katrina, in 1975 off the west coast of Mexico. Reviewing the capabilities, you can sort by year, you can sort by a year range, you can sort by month or a month range, and you can sort by a day of the month or a day range. And very importantly, you can sort by the intensity of the storm. If you know the name of the hurricane you're interested in, you can simply type the name in here. Now we're looking at Hurricane Camille from 1969. And we can use Google Street View to see exactly where the hurricane made landfall by right-clicking on that spot. If we pan around, we can see the beach. This, of course, will only work if there is Google Street View available for that location. And if we want a normal Google map, we can simply middle click with the mouse to bring that up in a different tab. This is a must-have tool for anyone doing serious hurricane location research. You can see that very few hurricanes hit the west coast of Africa or the coasts of South America. Before we go, let's take a look at that one in South America. That was a Category 1 which hit southern Brazil on March 28, 2004, the only known hurricane to ever hit South America. The NOAA map is interesting, but you can get a lot more detail at Visitech. Please like, subscribe, and sign up at visitech.ai.